Hello class, this is a general review of chapters 3 and 4 in preparation for our test which is upcoming on the Monday that Madrigal Choir returns to campus. I taught you the 4 basic types of triads using the building block system, and of course those are found on the opening pages of chapter 3. And you would do well to review those so you can remember how to build and spell triads. If you are the least bit fuzzy, I would suggest working problems on self-test 3.1, where you spell the triad given the root and the type. Then here you spell the same triad on a staff. Then over here you spell the triads given a certain portion of the triad, the root, the third, or the fifth. And you kind of have to work in both directions to do those problems. As you know, those are very beneficial and a great way to review triads. Then I taught you the 5 basic seventh chords that are to be found in chapter 3. The major seventh chord, the major minor seventh, the minor seventh chord. Then we came over to the top of the next page with a half diminished seventh chord and then the fully diminished seventh chord. Make sure you can spell those in your sleep and you know how they are built. Okay? Seems like easy stuff now. We're quite a ways beyond that after having done chapter 4, but nonetheless. And then you were to just simply put the type of seventh chord that you found in the blank here. That would be a good review. And then you had to notate them on the staff in this self-test. Then you had to notate them given a portion of the major minor seventh chord, either the root, the third, the fifth, or the seventh. Right, and then we moved on to inversions, and we encountered this happy little chart here in the middle of chapter 3. Sorry, my email's blowing up as I'm making this video. You would do well to come down this middle line here and review the symbols that are most often used for the 3 triads, the first 3, and then the 4 seventh chords, root position, first and second and third inversion seventh chords, making sure that you've got your numbers straight in your head. So nothing for root position triad, 6 for a first inversion triad, 6-4 for a second inversion. 7 tells us it's a root position seventh chord. 6-5, a first inversion seventh chord. 4-3, a second inversion seventh chord, and of course 4-2, a third inversion seventh chord. So there's a lot embedded in that chart. We then came across the page and we started our journey by examining a baseline that had numbers over it and some other terminology like a sharp or a slash and that type thing. And I set about trying to explain to you how we came up with this chord based upon just that number. And of course with just a 6 you know you're only looking at the third of the chord, so you're missing the note below it and you're missing the note above it. And you just sort of took the figured bass and we started figuring out what we had here. This was a tricky one. 6 tells us you're looking at the third of the chord once again, so we're missing a note below and a note above. But if you count up 6 from this note, you find a note had to be raised by a half step because of that sharp. So this was just an interesting brand new world for us to try to diagnose that baseline based upon the figured bass symbols that were there. Then we learned in the same day, or maybe a day later, we learned the lead sheet symbols that represent the triads. And those, of course, are across the top, major, minor, diminished, and augmented. And then the lead sheet symbols that represent the seventh chords. These become especially important later on in chapter 4. We were having to show lead sheet symbols across the top of certain problems and Roman numerals across the bottom. So this is a really important page to review for the test to make sure that you have very good understanding of the seventh chord lead sheet symbols and the triad lead sheet symbols. Then you had a page to practice here where you had to show the bass position symbol and the type of chord and the root of the chord like this. And that's a good exercise to make sure you know how to do those. So you could review by working on some of these self-test questions that we did not get to in class. Let's see. We did not do much harmonic analysis in class, but this would be a good exercise for you to work on. This is in the textbook, page 51. What you need to do, of course, here is take an inventory of the chord that you see here and determine what is the root of this chord, what's the type, and what's the bass position symbol. So you sort of take an inventory of all the notes up and down. Remembering, of course, roots are not always the lowest notes that appear. The root can be anywhere in the stack. So you just have to sort of try to stack them up in root position, figure out which one the root is, and that gives you your answer for root. And then you can also determine the type once you get them in root position. And then the bass position symbol tells us, all right, this is a triad in first inversion. Well, if that's the case, you put 6. Or if it's a 7th chord in first inversion, you put 6/5 or whatever. That's what BPS stands for, bass position symbol. Okay, so that would be a good exercise in preparation for the quiz from Chapter 3. It all looks sort of benign and simple right now, and it was quite life-changing when we were first teaching it. Coming over into Chapter 7, we find the common triad types in major. Of course, those are up at the top right here, found in the major mode. These are the always. I shouldn't have used the word common. These are always the triads in major. There's no variability in major. The 1 chord's always major. The 2 chord's always minor. The 3 chord's always minor, and so on. It's the minor scale, of course, that has the variability in it. So he then taught us down here at the bottom of this page 57 about the common types of minor triads, and these outline the harmonic minor scale. C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B natural, and then C. That's the harmonic minor scale. And of course the oddball chords in here are the 5 chord and the diminished 7th chord, both of which contain a leading tone. So you have to add that leading tone to get that major 5 and to get that diminished 7th chord quality. All right? Just a reminder. So then, there were some ways to practice. These self-tests are very, very good. Self-test 4.1, where you are given the key, and you have to give a Roman numeral on the bottom, and you have to give a lead sheet symbol on the top that represents that chord in that key. So these are really good problems. There's a lot to these. You would do well to work a few of that type, and then a few of this type over here on page 59, where you are given a scale degree in that key. The first one is B major. He wants you to show the Roman numeral that represents the chord on the 3rd scale degree. Well, if it says 3 here, it better say 3 there. All right, makes sense. But then you need to show the chord quality as well. As you know, not all Roman numerals are uppercase, some are lowercase, and so forth. Okay, and then here's some more analysis down here at the bottom. Now you're using just Roman numerals and bass position symbols. So you go all the way up and down with each chord, and you put the Roman numeral here that represents the 4 notes that you see, either a triad or 7th chord, and a bass position symbol if needed. If it's a root position triad, there's no bass position symbol needed. If it's a first inversion triad, you put 6 next to the Roman numeral, and so on. So good exercise to practice for you as well in preparation for this quiz. Oh, it's actually a test we're preparing for with this video because we have a test on that Monday. And then here are the diatonic 7th chords in minor. They're listed for you right here. Here are the 7th chords in major. All right, and these are not variable. These are always going to be the same because there's no variation in the major scale. It's always the same. So the seventh chord stacked up on the first scale degree of major is always going to be a 1 major 7. All right, and these follow suit. These are always the same in major. And this, of course, was our reminder: use a top and a bottom on your major Roman numerals. Like on the fifth scale degree, the major, minor, seventh, make sure your 5's got a top and a bottom on it, not a lowercase, but uppercase. It's that minor mode that has variability about it. C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B natural, C. The roots are going to outline the harmonic minor scale. These are the common types. And as I made a big deal about in the last video, the oddball chords are the 5-7 chord and the fully diminished 7th chord. And so you cannot make those the common way unless you include a raised leading tone. And that's something you have to do. So that's why I encourage you, when we have minor problems, well, as opposed to major problems, but minor problems, put the leading tone off here to the side in this C minor. B natural is the leading tone. So we can't make a proper 5-7 chord without a B natural, and we can't make that fully diminished 7th chord without a B natural. Then I made a big deal about working these type of problems, where you are going to show the Roman numeral and bass position on the bottom and lead sheet on the top. And these really are pretty different from one another. So make sure you review your Roman numerals and types from over here, and then you go back and review your lead sheets from chapter 3. Because these two are not the same. You're saying 6-5, 1 major 6-5 down here. Up here you're saying E major 7 up here / G sharp. Not E major 6-5. We don't use those numbers in lead sheet land. We just simply say it's an E major 7 chord / built on a G sharp. All right. And then I mentioned a great way to study and review for this chapter is to be able to fill out those grids. So make yourself a major triad chart. Make sure you know the types, a minor triad chart, and know the types. A major 7th chord chart and know all the types. And then a minor 7th chord chart and know all the types. All right, my friends. There will be no homework for the weekend that this video is representing. But as I mentioned, we have a test when you get back in town on that Monday. And it will be over chapters 3 and 4. So hopefully this was a good short review for you to sort of stimulate your thinking again and get you prepared for this test.